This podcast is brought to you by Infinite Resources, a local staffing agency connecting diverse job candidates in central Iowa companies.
I'm your host, Abena Sankofa Imhotep, and welcome back to Black and Privileged in America podcast. Catch Black and Privileged in America podcast on SoundCloud and on our very own platform, amplifieddsm.com. And please follow Black and Privileged in America podcast on our Facebook page. You know, you don't necessarily need a college degree anymore to get a good job, but earning one will probably make you more money in the long run and perhaps improve your career options. But on Thursday, June 29th of this year, 2023, the United States Supreme Court struck down affirmative action in college admissions, declaring race cannot be a factor and forcing institutions of higher education to look for new ways to achieve diverse student bodies. Drake University in Des Moines, Iowa, has been about it long before the ruling against affirmative action. And despite the court's conservative leanings over the past decade or so, Drake established John D. Bright College in 2021. Now it's a 2-year degree program with low barriers to entry, promising learners of all backgrounds the chance to do college differently. Today, I'm chatting with Bright College alum, Patricia Mama Pat Johnson and DeShana Taylor, both recent graduates of Bright College's inaugural class. Ladies, welcome to the show. So glad y'all are here.
Thank you so much. I'm excited to be a part of this. I'm just excited.
Yes, thank you. Good morning, Abena, and I'm excited to be here as well.
Thank you. Listen, we go way back, so we're gonna this is a conversation among friends. So tell our listeners about yourselves. I mean, we have listeners all over the country, and I know that they're anxiously awaiting this conversation because the reason why is Black women are the most highly educated demographic group in the country. So that's one of the reasons why I wanted you both here. So please, Mama Pat, we'll start with you. Tell the listeners a little bit about yourself.
Like you said, I'm also known as Mama Pat. My name is Patricia Johnson. I have lived in Des Moines for the better part of my life. I am a mother, grandmother, great-grandmother, and I enjoy things like reading. I'm not shy in a good game of spades.
Oh yeah, come on now.
Or dominoes, and I've been known to hold my own at the pool table.
What? Wait a minute. I didn't know that about you.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, now.
And I have a variety of interests, and the things I enjoy most is church and gospel music and family.
Wow. Thank you so much. Dee, what's up? Tell our listeners about you.
Well, my name is DeShana Taylor. I am an Iowa native. I currently work in IT. As Abena said, I'm a recent graduate of Bright College's inaugural class. I'm currently married, so I'm a mama, a wife, a grandmother, a daughter. One of the things that I enjoy the most is spending time with loved ones, which may or may not be blood relatives or family. And I enjoy listening to music and spending time with my favorite little person, my granddaughter.
Oh, you got to love the grands. They do something to you.
Mm-hmm.
They really do.
They do. I told my kids if I knew they were going to be that much fun, I'd had them first.
Right, okay. Just skip the middleman if we could.
Right.
True story, which is, I think what we've done for the listeners who don't already know, I also am a part of the graduating inaugural class of John D. Bright College at Drake University. We're fellow alum. And so part of what we've done, I think, is set a really impressive legacy for our grandchildren. Would you agree?
I would definitely agree. As a matter of fact, when we had our family celebration afterwards, my nephew stood up and said that, Aunt Pat, you've set the bar really high.
Wow.
And it is our job to make you proud.
Oh, my goodness. How'd that make you feel?
Oh, I was just overwhelmed. I was overwhelmed that that's how my family was looking at me, and that they were not just knowing that Grandma or Aunt Pat was going back to school at her age, but that she was doing it successfully.
Yeah. Okay, can we just say Mama Pat, you graduated summa cum laude,
That is correct.
the highest honors. Okay, I mean, wow.
At 69 years old.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh! Can we just applaud her? I just want to just give it up.
Yes.
I just gotta give it
Mama
up.
Pat.
Okay, showed us something. So I want to read a little excerpt from an online article that I stumbled across a few days ago, blackgirlnerds.com. So I stumbled across an article that I found on blackgirlnerds.com that I wanted to share with you leading into my next question. Blackgirlnerds.com, it says, Black women are surpassing Black men when it comes to higher education. Statistics show, we can leave that in maybe because I can't say statistics. Statistics show that out of all of the bachelor's degrees earned by African Americans, Black women are responsible for 2/3. Also, Black women hold 70% of all master's degrees and 60% of all doctorates earned by Black men and women. And in proportion to their share of the overall population, the rate of Black women getting degrees exceeds that of Latinas, Native Americans, Asian Pacific Islanders, and white women. So to that end, I want to know, like, what made you to decide to go back to school? What motivated you to pursue your dreams through higher education?
So I had just had a conversation. Let me say this. I made the decision 30 days before school starts to pull the trigger and actually go back to school.
I mean, you were down to the wire, sounds like.
I was. And I had just recently had a conversation with my husband prior to that 30 days explaining, wow, I paid off my student loan debt. I don't have a degree. I don't know if it makes sense for me to go back to school at this point and incur any more debt.
Okay, I want to pause real quick. So you said you'd paid off debt because you had been in school before.
Correct.
And hadn't completed.
Right.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. And I had paid that debt off. And I know, actually, I had mentioned to you in passing that, you know, I have this urge to go back to school. I love higher education. I thought that maybe at one point I might want to become an attorney. So I know in order to do that or get a law degree, I shouldn't say become an attorney because you can do so many things with a law degree besides practice law.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, it came from some pushing, for lack of a better word, a gentle pushing from you and even others. You know, when I had mentioned I might want to go back to school, and you had sent me a link to Bright College. I looked at it. You sent it to me months in advance. And I looked at it, and I said, yeah, okay, it sounds good. And then about 30 days before school was supposed to start, I had began seeing posts about Bright College, and I had began seeing posts with you, Mama Pat, you, Abena, and other folks. And I said, you know what? This is a chance to be a part of history, part of the inaugural class of John D. Bright College. The other thing that motivated me was my grandmother was a proponent of education, and I did not graduate from high school. The highest grade I completed was the 10th grade, and I thought, what a great way to honor my grandma by going back to school and getting a degree. And the other thing was the process was really easy, you know, and yeah, I mean, it was partly some gentle pushing from friends. It was following a urge that was in my spirit to go back and to honor my grandma.
Okay, wow.
And a sense of accomplishment because that motivates me too. I feel like, you know, no one can take that away from me.
Right. No one.
No one. So, yeah.
I mean, you did that.
Thank you, sis.
Wow. Okay. Miss Pat, what motivated you to pursue your dreams this way?
I would say that the motivation for me to return to school was unfinished business.
Wow. Unfinished. Okay. Listen, we need to know more.
Okay.
Tell us everything.
What it was I went to school back in the 80s to Des Moines Area Community College. I actually was in school with one of my children.
Oh, wow. That's cool.
That was cool. And like life often does, it will sidetrack you. I had 4 children going through school, found myself being a single parent again after a divorce, and I just did not have the wherewithal to do everything at one time.
Right.
So the thing that got shelved was school. But it had always been a dream of mine to get a degree. I encouraged my children, which two of the four did get degrees.
Oh, wow. That's so awesome.
And education as well in my family was a big thing. School, it was not an option, as you find it in today's society, where you can drop out if you want to. It just wasn't an option. And when I saw the opportunity, I have a friend who was an ambassador for the 2 years at John D. Bright. And they asked me, do you think you want to go back to school? I said, don't play with me.
You didn't see it as part of something that you wanted to, I mean, were you even thinking about it at that point?
I was not thinking about it at that time until it was presented. And the deep desire, the unfinished business in my head, it all just came to surface. It just bubbled up.
My
I
goodness.
had not been that excited about anything in a long time. And that was my motivation to go back and get that. And just like DeShana said, that sense of accomplishment and the fact that no one can take that from you. That was my motivation.
Okay, so
before you go,
yeah.
I want to just add one more thing too. You know, I go back and forth with. I'm a firm believer. Let me just say this: I am a firm believer that you do not have to have a formal education or a college degree in order to be successful,
Absolutely.
in order to make money, in order to be viable in this society. But I do believe, depending on what your degree is, depending on what it is you want to do, that having a degree can make you more viable in the workplace, especially if you're working for other people.
Yes.
Let me just make that plain. And I think it also can allow you to command more money as well, once again, depending on what your degree is and what field you're working in. So I wanted to say that. So that was another motivation. I don't worship money, but I am motivated by money in the sense that I know that I need that in order to be comfortable. I need money in order to be able to, I love giving to other people. I need that in order to be able to help others as well. That's not the only way I can help, but I felt that degree would add to that.
Absolutely. The thing about what you're saying that's so profound is, yes, you don't need a college degree to get a good job, to be successful. And I think success is kind of like beauty. It's in the eye of the beholder.
That's right.
But there are advantages to having the degree. Miss Pat, were you going to say something?
I was, with what she was saying, it was so basically personal for me. It wasn't about impressing anybody or getting a better job because I'm retired.
Okay, you're speaking.
It was completely personal, a fulfillment for me that I did this and I did it for me. Now, if someone around me benefits from that, from my education, so be it. But this was such a personal, I'm going to finally in my life do me moment.
Oh, okay.
And wait, and I got one more
Go
thing.
for it. Go for
I'm
it.
sorry,
Yes.
I'm just saying, as a Black woman in America, I feel like, and I've said this before, and I know people have heard it before because I'm not the first to say it. This is not profound. I firmly believe that we are the most disrespected and
Malcolm X.
underrepresented group of people on the planet.
Yes, no doubt.
And basically in the jobs that I have, I also felt like I command respect regardless. That's just how my daddy raised me. But I also recognize that no matter how much I code switch, how professional I am, no matter what I present, someone may look at me and just still see the color of my skin, right, and see my gender. And I also felt like that degree, and for me it's sad to say this, I felt like that degree is also going to command a respect that I might not otherwise get.
Okay, so now we're going down this rabbit hole that I wanted to go down anyway. Thank you, DeShana, because I wonder how you both feel about whether or not, yes, it could potentially allow us to command respect and those things, but does it shield us from anything? Does the education and the degree, the honors, do those things shield us from racism, from discrimination, from any and all types of hate? Like, what is, I don't know, what should the expectations be for someone like us, a black woman, for pursuing a higher education, particularly as a non-traditional student?
I don't think that it shields us from any of those things, because miseducation is what causes those things.
Ooh-wee.
So it's not a shield. I look at it as a tool.
Oh, listen, audience, I hope y'all are catching these jewels. Catch these jewels. Okay, so yes, please elaborate.
Okay, because I feel like, and it's different for me, because like I said, I'm going to be 70 in a couple of months. And I proved everything I needed to prove to the world. This was strictly for me. And I just think that because I've always felt that education is the key to a lot of things, who you are is how you get those things.
I mean, there's so much wisdom in that. I rarely am I speechless. Rarely am I speechless. But I just want to process that. Who you are. Oh, okay.
And I want to piggyback on that.
Yeah.
You know, education, my grandmother always taught me and firmly believed as well that education is the key. But I want to make it plain that when we talk about education, I'm still not saying it's higher education, right? You've got to have knowledge of self. You also have to know your history, or the history of your people and your culture as well. And I agree with you that having an education does not shield you from racism in any way, shape, form, or fashion.
Period.
So I just have to say with a resounding no, it does not shield you, but it can, not to say it does, but it can afford you additional opportunities, or it can open doors for you in regards to having a degree, once again, depending on what you're trying to do in life.
Okay, so why Drake? There's so many other communities and colleges in our community here in Des Moines. And I won't get to naming them because then I'll name one, forget some. But there are opportunities for someone to return to school. What about Drake appealed to you?
I'm going to be as real as it gets. It was the prestige of Drake University.
Drake is known as the Harvard of the Midwest.
That's absolutely correct. It has always been a dream of mine. I have friends who attended Drake, and yes, I coveted that. I'm human. Mm-hmm. You know, Drake was always a dream. I said, if there was ever any way in this world that I would go to any school, I would love to have a degree from Drake University. And there it was, right there in front of me. Just invite me, come get it.
Come and get it. And that's really what they did, is they kind of said, hey, we want you. Come on over here.
Yes. So, you know, being real, you know, there's prestige associated with Drake University. And I'm not above that at all.
Dee, what about you?
I agree wholeheartedly. I'm not even going to tell a lie either. I'm going to keep it all the way thorough. You know, I'm not a glory seeker, but I do recognize that other folks recognize the value of having a Drake degree. Mm-hmm. It is considered prestigious. Mm-hmm. And I didn't think it was attainable before Bright College as well. You know, in thinking about, you know, we've talked about they provide low barriers, or, you know, in order to enter into the institution. I didn't have to have a SAT, okay? The application process was easy.
On, go down the list.
You know, the application process was extremely easy. I wrote a little short, you know, essay in regards to why I wanted to attend. The counselor at the time who was helping folks, you know, onboard folks to the Bright College program as well. It was a super easy process. So, you know, I chose Drake at that point in time because of I wouldn't have gone to Drake. I'm going to keep it thorough. I wouldn't have gone to Drake outside of the Bright College opportunity. So it was the prestige for me. And for me, yes, I wanted that Drake degree, but I want to go back and say that I recognize other people recognized the prestige of Drake. So there was that. I don't want to call it it's because, it's not a shield, but, it was like, I've got this shield on I got my little badge on.
Exactly. It is a badge.
Come on, Drake.
Absolutely.
It does open doors. I mean, there's this thing to where, I ain't going to say I got pulled over or anything. Mm-hmm. I won't say that. Okay. I will not say that. But if you get pulled over and you accidentally pull out your student ID or be like, oops, or or if you have the license plate cover from Drake, and I won't say you get preferential treatment, I'm just saying it might give you an advantage, and that's part of that benefit, that unspoken benefit that may come. Now listen, don't go out here speeding and say Abena said you go to Drake so you can break the law. That is not what I'm saying. But there are some unspoken advantages that come with the territory from being associated with an institution like Drake. So then if we drill it down even more and go specifically to Bright College, what about that experience was different from you, Miss Pat, in your DMAC experience, or you, DeShana, in your previous college experience?
What was different for me is after the excitement and the process, I looked up John D. Bright.
Oh, the man, John D. Bright. Yeah.
And his story. I was already aware of him, but not his whole story. And when I found out what Drake stood on to support this man, they dropped out of a whole conference, y'all.
Yeah. So let's give a little background on that. And I'm going to go off the cuff here, but John D. Bright was a collegiate football player who decided to land at Drake University to pursue his academic education and to play on the football team.
Absolutely. And he did other sports, too.
He excelled in all sports he touched. And I even remember in some research that I did, he was a part of a baseball team here in the 40s and 50s that used to congregate at Good Park. And they were stellar. They were a stellar team, and he was like one of the stars of the team. And so during a football game against Oklahoma, he was injured and his jaw was broken. He got hit several times and kept playing. Now, mind you, John D. Bright was in line for the Heisman Trophy. He was probably the number one choice for the Heisman Trophy. And after this incident where he was hit several times, his jaw was either dislocated or broken. And thank goodness for reporters who were capturing footage of the incident, because again, if a black man is hurt and there ain't no footage, it did not happen.
Absolutely.
But there was footage. There was images that were captured. He had to drop out. His name was basically removed from that list of Heisman hopefuls. And Drake University stepped in and said, hey, we are removing ourselves from the Missouri Valley Conference because of that incident.
Absolutely. And that was a motivating factor for me, even more so that this institution, when nobody else would stand, they stood. They said, this is not right, it's not fair, and we refuse to be a part of it.
Didn't we run him up out the country, too?
Yeah.
With systemic racism? I don't mean we when I say we.
Yes. Yeah. That's a whole nother podcast.
Anyway, right.
We'll get into what we got to define we. But yes, he ended up leaving the United States and going to Canada. And completing his degrees in Canada.
Yeah, and he was a teacher there as well.
Yeah.
And a principal.
There are parks and schools and all kinds of landmarks named after him in Canada.
Absolutely. So that being in tune with what Drake actually stood for and to honor this man in this way, I wanted to be a part of it.
Wow. I mean, it says a lot that, the history will be narrated for him and a lot of people as kind of one-sided. And I think I think it was our first or second semester in Bright College, we were able to meet his granddaughter via virtual Zoom or whatnot. And she came in and she said, yeah, history is displaying my grandfather as this amazing football player and athlete, which he was. But she said the most enduring legacy he left behind was the way he helped people. She said nobody will know how many kids he bought school supplies and shoes for. Nobody will know that because that's who he was. So I think it reminds me, your statement, Ms. Pat, is reminding me to not only rely on the narration that is given to us about a person, but to know their complete and total humanity as well. DeShana, what is it about Bright College that stood out for you, particularly against your previous college experience?
One of my favorite things about the Bright College experience, and I know you've probably heard this before, is we were given autonomy over our educational experience, and we were allowed to set rules and boundaries in regards to how we want to and how we will learn. The other thing that was really amazing to me was the fact that we were part of a cohort during that 2-year period. And so we had some very tough discussions during class, but because we were with the same group of people, we were able to establish boundaries and trust and respect and able to have conversations even when we didn't agree and still love on each other. Bright College for me was a family. And I've never had an experience in college, and I've been to DMAC, I've been to Grandview, and I've never experienced learning with a family. And so, we made that experience because once again, we were given autonomy to do so. So that part was really amazing for me, and it made it easier to learn.
That's really interesting. And so I'm thinking about the concept of a cohort, which is becoming more popular in higher education, by the way. When Drake introduced Bright College and the format was cohort style learning, it's a relatively new innovation, but like I said, it's becoming more widely utilized. That being said, for people who graduate from Bright College and continue on outside of Bright into other aspects of Drake or other universities where there is not a cohort style learning environment, what could possibly be the drawbacks? Because if you're used to learning with the same people and you get used to that rhythm, that flow, you know how people communicate, you know people's patterns, you've set ground rules because you're in that kind of environment where it's needed, really it's necessary in a cohort environment. But then you go from that to a class that might be an hour long, you've got 100 people in there, and then you move on to the next class. What suggestions would you have for people to make that adjustment in their thinking and in their mindset to be ready for that?
I think one of the things that I've always thought about is that sometimes you're put in situations not to change you, but to change the situation.
Oh, okay. Listen, Miss Pat, if I can we take up an offering?
The doors are open. The doors is open.
That is so powerful.
And I was in a situation like that at one time, and I actually talked to my minister about it because it just felt bad. And he said, "Sis, maybe you wasn't put there to change you. Maybe you was put there to change them." And that's how it ended up. And I would think in the broader picture, in a situation like this, my advice would be to carry what you got from Bright College forward. Share it with others. You might be that change they were waiting for.
My goodness. So carry what? Let's dig in there. Carry what is it that you got from Bright College that you carry everywhere you go?
What I got from Bright College is the acceptance from everybody, from wherever you were in life. Meet them where they're at. Have people meet you where you're at. And the biggest thing that I got was that sense of family. Blood don't make you family.
See,
love makes you family.
Love,
Yes.
and there was a sense of love in that room.
It absolutely was.
Oh my goodness! Wow, to learn in an environment of love. I wonder if that impact, to have a loving environment, how that would impact children. Because right now, in so many educational environments, with the laws and rules and regulations changing constantly in our country, in our state, okay, let's not talk about House File 802 and the other ones with the banning this and that it makes it really hard for educators to emotionally invest in the child that's in front of them. And some of them may not be prepared to emotionally invest in the child anyway. So when you say an environment of love encompassing a learning environment, I think that's really profound.
And I think that because in this day and age, sometimes that classroom is the only place that child is going to get love.
Wow, my goodness. That is so sad. It's a sad reality.
It is sad, but it's real.
Mm-hmm. Man.
What would I tell someone maybe transitioning from the cohort type program or Bright College moving into a more traditional learning style? I would say stay true to yourself. Dig deep, because you're going to have to, because it's such a stark difference from the environment where we came from. And not only was there love within the classroom amongst the students, but generally speaking, there was love that was emanating from our professors as well.
I'm glad you brought that up. The professors are second to none. Second to none.
Well, you know.
Keep going, though. I don't want to interrupt.
Not all of them, but most of them.
Okay, I ain't going to ask for no names.
I'm not giving no names.
Keeping it real.
No, and here's the other thing. You know, sometimes when people are teaching you, whether it's in a higher education setting or whether it's your mama, your daddy, your friend, you know, someone that you work with, people can be condescending and talk down to you or come from this position of authority where they feel like, you know, just because you may have more knowledge than me in a certain area and I'm coming to you to learn does not mean that I don't deserve respect as well. And so not only was there love that emanated from, you know, most of the faculty, not just the professors, but, you know, even some of the counselors, et cetera, but there was a level of respect there as well, you know, and so that made it easy to learn. And one thing I will say for folks who are transitioning from maybe a Bright College or a cohort-based experience, transitioning to the greater population on campus, is to have faith in yourself and don't be afraid to advocate for yourself.
Yeah.
No one is going to advocate for you like you can. And if you need some help with that advocacy, ask someone that you trust and know who's going to help you to advocate for yourself.
I think that's all good, solid, actionable insights. You know, advocate for yourself, show up, be true to you, dig deep. Know that you're there not only for your own benefit, but you can change the environment that you're in. I mean, that's really powerful stuff, really stuff that we can let that sit with us. So ladies, has your degree, or maybe I should say, how has your degree enhanced your life or changed your situation, or has it at all? I mean, because the reality is, like I said at the top of the show, you don't need a college degree to be successful. Although there are advantages and benefits that we've covered, you know, how has it enhanced your life or changed your life?
I think for me, one of the things that I've always been a proponent for education, and I'm even more so now with my children and grandchildren. It has made me pushier.
Pushier? What do you mean pushier?
With these children.
Are you thumping them in the back of the head?
Yes, I will. But it's, you know, when we talk about education, I have a teenage great-granddaughter who is, we're going back to school, I don't want to go back to school. But, oh, yes, you do. And this is why. Because without education, you are handicapping yourself for life.
Wow, handicapping yourself for life.
So, for me, it just has made me feel better that, yeah, you being this strongly for education, it's right. It's right. It feels good. It makes me feel good that I'm in a position to say, look, if I did this, you can do this. So it's just given me a sense of accomplishment.
Do you feel like you're a role model? I feel like you're a role model for your family.
You know, I didn't see that, but I keep getting told that. So I would embrace that. That it's a responsibility to be a role model.
Do you think it's a responsibility to be educated in general?
I absolutely do think you owe it to yourself. You don't owe it to anybody else walking or breathing. You owe that to yourself. Any way you can be a better version of yourself, you owe that to yourself.
Wow. Thank you. Miss Pat, I'm looking for your book to come out soon. We'll have you back so we can debut it here on Black and Privileged in America podcast, for real. DeShana, how has your degree enhanced or changed your life?
Okay, so I don't want to negate or let me say this. I feel, this is my opinion, and I feel that in the workforce, nobody really cares about an associate's degree. Mm-hmm. Okay?
Because that is the reward for completing Bright College, is an associate's degree.
Yes. Yep. Okay. I worked full time throughout my throughout the Bright College experience. After getting the degree, immediately I didn't get an immediate raise or anything like that. Good job, DeShana, pat on the back. We're proud of you. We knew you could do it. But for me, this was.
You mean they ain't give you no raise? Wait a minute.
I mean, but let me say this though, they do take care of me.
Okay, because I was gonna write a letter to somebody. I don't know.
But as far as immediate results from the associate's degree, I didn't see any in regards to a monetary gain or being able to move forward on my job. But what I will say is it opened my mind, and it made me hungry for more, and it let me know just how little I know. You know, I thought before I started Bright College that I was smart, right? I'm just
no,
gonna
hold
tell
on.
the truth.
You are one of the most intelligent people I've ever known.
I'm not saying that I'm not intelligent.
Don't get it twisted, y'all.
But I was amongst the people in my cohort. I was amongst brilliant people. And it opened my mind. I learned so much, and I'm now more open to just believing my own way of thinking. You know, like I can come across different ideas and different concepts that I might have just shut down initially. So I just felt like it opened me up to be able to receive better, if that makes sense. And so I just feel more open, and I feel more hungry, you know, for more knowledge, if that makes sense. I just feel like my way of thinking has changed. I feel like blinders were lifted off my eyes, you know, and like I said, it made me hungry to seek out knowledge on my own. I'm not just going for, and I've never been one to go for what you tell me. I got to find out for myself.
Right, research.
I've always been that person, but it made me that much more hungry, and it brought new issues to mind for me, because we talked about and discussed and learned about so many different things, from the environment to social justice issues to laws to education to disparities in health. We learned so many different things. And so, I learned how to question, and there's nothing wrong with questioning as well. So I've always got questions. So
I love that. I mean, I feel like one thing I always try to remind myself is there's wisdom in an answer, but most of the wisdom comes in a question that's asked properly. Mm-hmm. So what kinds of questions, and I'm kind of just giving you this off the fly, but what kind of questions are you asking now of the world, of what's happening? I mean, we've got a plethora of things in front of us. We've got what's happened. We've got January 6th that happened. We've got
August 5th.
Oh, girl, listen. We did the last episode was all about the riverfront resistance, as I like to call it. We've got that, but I believe that some of those participants were emboldened by a Trump rally that happened the week before. Mm-hmm. So all of these political implications that are influencing people, how they think, how they move in the world, how they see other people. What are the questions you're asking, both of you? Because I know I'm asking, like this morning, I was at breakfast I went out to a local spot for breakfast, and I saw a man. He had on a T-shirt. Now, on his T-shirt was a grayed out American flag and a gray cross. And he was carrying a Bible and a fanny pack. Now, what am I thinking? What questions am I thinking? Maybe 5 years ago, I'd be like, oh, that's a Christian man. But that's not my questions anymore. My questions are, is he an extremist? Is he right wing? Who is he going to vote for? He looks like a Trumper. All of these assumptions that I don't want to make about people, but they're legitimate questions that I have. So what kind of questions are you asking of the world?
This is so timely. I stopped yesterday at a local food spot, and I pull up and I park, and it's a truck, so you could close parking, and there's a van sitting there. Lady hops out, and I do a double take because it has. Now, I didn't see her get out. When I looked over there, it was empty, but there's a big old picture of Trump on the side of the van.
She had his face on her van?
Not just, wait, it gets better.
Wow, that's deep.
So, because I didn't know if it belonged to a worker or a patron, I'm like, who the heck is serving people
right.
driving around?
Yeah.
And if you're going to, do I really want to place this order here if this belongs to somebody here?
Exactly.
I'm like, and I finally discerned who it belonged to because she was so excited to go back to her van and bring out a head fan of Trump. And yes, I got in my head and I got in my true feelings. And I was like, what the heck is really going on? I didn't say heck. And why?
Oh, you was cussing.
She was, yeah. And I don't really
she said, what the hell?
Yeah, I did. And I'm like, okay, my question is, how many of y'all run around here amongst regular folks, and at what level are you perpetrating your cause?
Exactly. And, mind you, I do want to interject that I would not want to see anybody with Joe Biden's face on the side of their truck either.
Absolutely.
It's like, what kind of level of devotion do you have to an idea that you would do that? Or maybe not even the idea, but the person that represents that idea to you.
It was also a reality check for me that while you see it on TV and you know that it exists, there are really everyday people walking around here who support insanity.
Yeah, totally.
Authority.
Mm-hmm. In authority.
In authority. And it was a reality check. It was, what the hell? It was a whole lot of things all at once, just stopping for some chicken wings.
Yeah, nothing is simple anymore. Nothing is as simple as it used to be.
Nothing.
DeShana, what are your questions? What are you seeing and asking of the world?
Questions. I question everything. I don't know if you all remember from class, but I'd raise my hand. I've got questions.
You set a great example for the rest of us.
Absolutely.
But for example, I'm looking at a newscast and I'm, whatever they're reporting on, I began questioning who's behind the story? What was the motivation behind the story? If they're quoting statistics, where did the statistic come from?
Right.
Right? Mm-hmm. What was the control group in the statistic? Like I said, going to Bright College basically opened my eyes and just made me want to question everything, and so I question everything. I'm asking the questions. It depends on what I am ingesting, what I'm looking at, what questions I may have, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
but
totally.
I'm questioning everything. And not only am I questioning, I'm looking for the answer as well. Mm-hmm. So, yeah.
And I think the answers are everywhere, and they're multiplicitous because there isn't just one. There's not one.
Exactly.
And I think for me, I'm questioning how I'm thinking
Yes.
about everything. Like,
Say that.
why am I squinting at this particular situation? What is it about what I think and feel that is causing me to react this way in a certain situation? So all of these questions come up for me. And I just, We got to do this again, y'all.
Yeah, I question my motivations for reacting.
Yeah, yeah.
Why am I reacting like that? She just somebody here, just like you, get some food.
Mm-hmm.
But because of what she was perpetrating, it was like, wow, it's on every level.
And then I think back to our classroom in Bright College. We all came from different walks of life, different belief systems, different eras. As diverse as the world is, we were the world in that room.
Yes, we were.
And so I try to keep in mind, I think that's what I would attempt to take with me everywhere is understanding diversity at its truest level is that there is no one else on earth who thinks like me.
That's right.
And I'm the only one who thinks and reasons this way, and other people think and reason in their way, and that's okay for them until it's not. Until some hands are thrown or until there's some violence, until someone's hurt or harmed. So it's learning to be okay with everybody else's normal unless there's hurt or harm involved. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I wanted to also say, in asking questions, right? I also question myself as well, but don't get it twisted. I'm not second guessing myself when I say questions.
Mm-hmm.
I'm also questioning my motivation as well, and not just why I'm reacting a certain way to something. Why do I think this way? Digging deep.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's important not only for us to question what's going on in the world, in our society, in our community, but it's also important to check in with ourselves and question ourselves and our own motivations and our own thinking as well. And I question myself because I want to be a better person.
Yeah.
For myself, for my family, for my community. We've got to ask questions, y'all.
Wow, I think if we had more DeShanas and more Mama Pats in the world, then the world would be a better place. I've got another question for you as we get ready to close. I just want to say thank y'all so much for being here. It's been a pleasure, and I consider the 2 years that we spent together in Bright College at Drake University as two of the most enriching years of my life. So many things happened that stretched my mind and my thinking and the way I perceive the world. And that was no doubt due to your influence and your wisdom and your way of being in that room. And so thank you for that. Thank you for touching and imprinting on my life. I just want y'all to know that. And the whole wide world out there, I want y'all to know it too. So what are you reading right now? What books are you reading? We have this tradition now where we are sharing book recommendations with our listeners. And so from you, inspirational, intelligent women, what are you reading?
Well, for me right now, I'm not really reading anything.
Okay. You just graduated. You did enough reading.
Right. I was like, okay, I'm going to give these books a rest. The only book I'm really reading right now is the Bible. I read that regularly. I do the daily devotions and stuff. And it's enriching. Just back to what you just said about how we react to things and how there was one this morning about thinking spiritually rather than carnally.
Oh, yeah.
And how you react. And I try to apply those things to my life. When different family situations come up, you might see me smiling and stuff, and I might have just laid out one of my children. You know what I'm saying?
That Bible got you together.
You're right. But yeah. Can I get an amen?
Right, amen.
What's his name saying on TV these days? No, you can't. But anyway, that's basically what I'm reading right now. Although I am an avid reader, I think I'm in a timeout.
Yeah, the Bible is a good book.
It is. It really is.
It's a good book. It's the origin story. I consider it, if you want to know anything about origins or Black history, start with the Bible is what I always tell people.
Absolutely.
Yeah, thank you, Miss Pat. The Bible. D, what are you reading?
I'm actually rereading a couple of books right now. One of the books I'm reading is called My Love by Toni, Cade, Bambara. One of my favorite authors. This book was originally published in the early 70s. It's a series of short stories that talk about basically Black life and Black experience. Toni, Cade, Bambara, just a little educational piece. You know, she was a social activist. She was an author. She was a professor as well. And so I love that book, so I'm rereading it. And then the other book that I'm reading, which is another favorite, or rereading that's another favorite of mine, is The Prophet by Kahlil Gibran. And Kahlil, the main character in the story, I want to say his name is Alum. He's a prophet, and he spent many years in a city that wasn't his home. I believe the place was called Orphalese, maybe. But anyway, as he decides that he's going to go back home to his home country, the townspeople gather, and he begins to give them lessons on love, life, pain, spending money, marriage, the laws of the land, things like that. And I think it's just written so beautifully, and it has some really beautiful gems about life that you can take with you. So those are the two books I'm reading right now.
Those are awesome. I mean, those two, the Bible, come on, y'all. I think our listeners are going to have such wonderful options to pick from, and I want you all to go out and look, even if you don't go buy a new book, pick up your Bible and read it.
Absolutely.
Read it. I do encourage people to especially if they're just starting a Black history journey, to pick up the Bible, because and a map at the same time. You'll be able to connect some interesting dots that you may not have known about. So yeah, great suggestions. My book selection for you all today is a throwback to Bright College first semester. It's a book that was assigned reading to us when we were learning about race and culture and a whole bunch of other things concerning social justice. And it is, before I tell you what it is, I'm going to read an excerpt really quick from the end of the book. Something more fierce than Marcus Garvey is riding on the whirlwind. Something more awful than all our African ancestors is rising with the seas. The two phenomena are known to each other. It was the cotton that passed through our chained hands that inaugurated this age. It is the flight from us that sent them sprawling into the subdivided woods. And the methods of transport through these new subdivisions across the sprawl is the automobile, the noose around the neck of the earth, and ultimately the dreamers themselves. And that is Between the World and Me by Ta-Nehisi Coates. So those are the book recommendations. I just, again, want to say thank you to my guests, DeShana Taylor and Miss Pat, Mama Pat Johnson. You are inspirational women. You are, again, two of the most intelligent people I've ever known. And I'm sure that everywhere you go, your light shines. I see you pointing at me, D. I'm talking. I'm trying to give you your love and your shine right now. Let me give.
We just want to make sure you get yours too.
Y'all,
you're
come on.
One awesome human being. I tell you, you don't have to. You can be a lot younger and still be inspiring. And I'm telling you, you wearing it.
Oh my goodness! Thank you, Miss Pat.
And I want to piggyback on that and say that, Abena, you are one of the most brilliant, humble, loving, and beautiful people I know. You have a beautiful spirit. You're about your business. She's like, well, I don't know if you know. Wait a minute.
I love y'all. I appreciate that.
But one of the things I really appreciate about you is you are so humble, Abena. You have so much in you. So much, and you pour into other people, and you bring people along with you, and you provide opportunities. Let me go back to the beginning of this podcast when you asked me what made me decide to go back to school. I remember I mentioned in passing to you that I was thinking about going back to school. You sent me tools and resources, just a gentle nudge. You know what I mean? You're thoughtful. And so, listen, Abena, you're amazing. I just need you to know that. I have to say it out loud for the world to hear. I appreciate you. I love you. And you're so humble. Woo!
Oh,
y'all just don't know.
Listen, I love these people. My friends are better than y'all's friends, okay? Listen, thank you both for joining me today. This is Abena Sankofa Imhotep, and this has been another fantastic episode of Black and Privileged in America podcast, presented by AmplifiedDSM.com. Today, we've been joined in community with Mama Pat Johnson and DeShana Taylor as they shared incredible insights on pursuing higher education as Black women as non-traditional students. Check out the show notes from today's episode to learn more about Drake University Bright College, as well as getting those book recommendations. Also, please visit our website at www.amplifiedsm.com and my website at www.abenasankofa.com. Thanks for listening. Until next time.
This podcast is brought to you by Infinite Resources, a local staffing agency connecting diverse job candidates in central Iowa companies.